Good afternoon and welcome to the April 28th, 2025 regular council meeting. Welcome. I call the meeting to order at 1 p.m. and I ask my council if they have any added items at this time. I do not see any, so we will move down to item B, adoption of the agenda, please. I would like to ask council permission for consensus for the agenda. The agenda is passed by consensus. Moving down to number 2 of your agenda, page 3, please. Item 2A, regular council meeting minutes of April 14th. I'd ask council if they have any errors or deletions, questions. If not, I'm asking for consensus, please. We have consensus for the meeting minutes of April 14th. Thank you. Moving down to page 7 of your agenda, please. Bylaws, item 3A. We will be holding a public hearing for 2025-05 for consideration of second and third reading for this bylaw. I don't see anybody here. Okay. All right. Well, then I will open the public hearing and we'll hear what James has to say. Yes? He's the only one here? Yes, okay. I'll go ahead and I'll open the public hearing. I see there's people possibly here. So I call the public meeting to order for bylaw 2025, land use bylaw. And I will do pecuniary interest, please. And according to section 172 of the MGA, says you may not take part, this is for interest of municipal councillors, in a discussion and decision-making on any matter in which you have pecuniary interest. The legislation attempts to ensure that you are not discriminated in for anything by virtue of your membership of council. So if you have pecuniary interest, please, you are to disclose that you have an interest. You are to abstain from any discussion of the matter from voting. You are to leave the room until the matter has been dealt with, and you should make sure that your abstention is recorded in the minutes. You are not to be discriminated against and are entitled to participate in a public hearing as a member of the public. I declare the public hearing open at 1:03 p.m. And I ask the municipal land use planner, is that correct? Oh, everybody's changing on me here, to explain the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, CAO. Can I just steal the mouse? Bylaw 2025-05 proposes to change the zoning for the remainder of the Southeast 2932-1 west of the 5th from urban reserve to light industrial. The purpose of the rezoning is to allow for further development of the Southeast Industrial in alignment with the Southeast Industrial Area Structure Plan. The bylaw received first reading on March 24th, 2025, and notice of the hearing was advertised on the town website and in the April 8th and 15th issues of the Albertan and circulated to 12 neighboring property owners. Planning Department received no correspondence either for or against regarding this proposed rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crozier, who is our Manager of Planning and Infrastructure. My apology. At this time, I would like to explain the procedures for the public hearing. However, I would like to ask the gallery, are there any members here to address this public hearing that would like to speak? Seeing none, then we are going to move right down, and I'm going to ask council if you have any comments. I see no comments from council at this time. Are there any final comments from our, Mr. Crozer? Thank you. I then declare the public hearing bylaw closed at 1:05 p.m. We will now move down to page 7 of your agenda, please, for item 2, which is second reading. And I would ask for a motion. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that bylaw 2025-05 be given second reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I will now call for the vote for those in favor. Opposed? None. That is carried. And for third and final reading, please, Deputy Mayor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that bylaw 2025-05 be given third reading as presented.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Walsh. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? Those opposed? None. That is carried. Very good. That public hearing is now moving on to page 11 of your agenda, item 3B. And this is bylaw 2025-06 land use bylaw as well for a public hearing, second and third reading. Once again, we'd ask the manager planning and infrastructure to approach the podium. I will open. Did you want to speak first? Oh, here we do. That's very good. Okay, then I will call the public hearing open at 1:07 p.m. I will review the pecuniary interest once again for our municipal councillors, stating that the legislation attempts to ensure that you are not discriminated either for, against, or by virtue of your membership on council. You are to disclose that you have an interest. You are to abstain from any discussion on the matter, from voting. You are to leave the room until the matter has been dealt with. Should you make sure that you abstention is recorded in the minutes. You are not to be discriminated and are entitled to participate in a public hearing as a member of the public. Again, the public hearing is now open at 1:08 p.m. And I ask our manager of planning and infrastructure for comments.
Thank you again. The purpose of bylaw 2025-06 is a proposed redesignation of a portion of Northeast 631-1 west of the 5th from urban reserve to low-density residential R1. The purpose of this rezoning is to facilitate the next phase of the Vistas area structure plan, as shown in the drawing on the screen here. The bylaw received first reading on March 24th, 2025. Notice of the public hearing was advertised on the website and in the 8th and 15th of April issues of the Olds Albertan. It was circulated to relevant agencies and 32 neighboring property owners. We received 2 responses in opposition, which are attached in your agenda package, and no responses in support of the proposed bylaw amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now move down to the gallery members, and persons addressing council will state their name and address, indicate if they are speaking on their own behalf or for a client, company, or citizens group. I see we do have members in the gallery, so I will start with a call for the first time for those in support of the proposed bylaw. Those in support? Seeing none, a call first time for those opposed to the bylaw. Those who would like to speak opposed to the proposed bylaw? Seeing none, I will then move to a first-time call for those persons deemed to be affected by the proposed bylaw, if they wish to come forward. Those deemed to be affected by the proposed bylaw, you're welcome to come forward, ma'am, if you like. Just to come to the podium, please. Yes. That's fine. You're welcome to speak. Just state your name and address, please, and and if you're speaking on your own behalf.
Yeah, I think I am. My name is Bev Rangers, and golly, I should have done my homework. I'm sorry. I apologize. I do have adjacent land. It's presently farmland, and I'm just an old timer here, and I'm just kind of. I already thought it was light industrial. I thought that the parcel we're talking about, when my letter, maybe I'm not on the right proposal here. I've just, this,
So, sorry, I'll interject here.
Okay.
Council just finished that
That
item
part.
on the agenda, yes.
oh, I was swimming and I missed it.
Sorry. But to your question, it was already conceptualized as light industrial in our area structure plan,
Yeah.
but it was left, what we call urban reserve, unzoned essentially.
Oh, okay.
So this rezoning at the request of the property owner
Okay.
was to bring it into that effective zoning.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, anyways, okay, so I don't really have anything to say other than I'm out in the country. And I guess I do have concerns about wetlands preservation. I'm not sure what the plan is, and I can follow up on that later. Just that, you know, the town of Olds love wetlands. People love to walk and to be engaged in nature. And because of our adjacent property to the one you already talked about, sorry, I missed it. And I can do that later. I can look at what your plan is for people, helping people engage with nature with already occurring wetlands. But I guess really industrial zoning and nature and walking for people probably don't go together very well.
It's not that common, and James behind you can speak better than I can, but
Okay.
for the Southeast Industrial,
Yeah.
when the plan was actually made, we call it area structure plan, probably a decade or more ago, Alberta Environment made us do all the wetland assessments. So we do have those in place, but in terms of the recreation version of wetlands, probably not something we would pursue. But
Right.
James has more information
Okay.
than I can, and he's
Yeah,
he's
okay.
much more informed. But.
I'll just
Thank you.
pretend that I'm engaged in what you're doing and very interested and supportive. And light pollution for the birds is really, really important because migratory birds, this is a very important area. And so as people do develop things, I'd like for people to be mindful of really trying to turn down the lights if you can. Because I live like 6 miles west and the lights are almost blinding me from in town. So anyways, that's all I have to say. And I can follow up later, but just an interesting note for all you folks, because I am an old timer here, that my dad learned how to swim in those wetlands that's just west of what you already talked about. But anyways. Okay, I'll leave because I don't want.
We really appreciate your time and effort for being here. Thank you very much for coming. Very good, we'll move on. I will ask council if you have any comments with regards to the bylaw, or the, go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just have one comment. Was it Bev? Or- I would just, if it's within my jurisdiction, on May 5th, we are holding a public engagement around housing in Olds. So you would certainly be welcome. And again, I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds here, but certainly welcome. I think it runs from 11 till 1 on May 5th and then from 5 to 7. And the purpose of that is a public engagement to talk about housing, so it'll be an opportunity for you to come again in a very general sense, so.
And we'll have that posted in the paper under the town as well as on our website, so again, thank you for coming. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And now a question. I just want to, well, on the diagram there, the
Point of order. Go ahead, Marcy. Okay, thank you. I'm at the ask for council comments. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Yeah, on page 12, just really a minor point, but, so we have the blue dot covering 2 areas, but that mustard-colored area is already R1, correct? Or am I following the agenda right, or?
Thank you, James.
So in this diagram, the whole area bounded by that blue dashed line is to be rezoned. It's all currently urban reserve. So the whole blue area is supposed to be R1. The green area currently contains the storm pond. Current practice is storm ponds, parks, most of those are rezoned at the, to be the same as the surrounding land use. So it'd be that green area and the yellow, and then the gray for the road would all be zoned R1 at this point in time.
Further, one more? Go ahead, Councillor
No,
Wilson.
thank you. What was confusing me was the legend, and maybe I'm misreading the legend there and mislinking colors and so on, but no, that's fine.
Thank you very much. Any further comments from council at this point? Very good. Any final comments? Did you have it? Yeah, CAO?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Dahl. Just so we're clear, so the legend refers to essentially, let's call it ownership. So PUL, Public Utility Lot, that will be owned by the town in perpetuity, even though it's zoned R1. The yellow subdivided lots, those will be privately held. So PUL is just a term we use for things like storm ponds, public utilities, then right-of-ways is another term for it. So the legend just kind of segregates who owns what, more or less. So the green area is ours.
Want to respond back to the CAO?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In the form of a supplemental thing. So just a broad question here to the CAO, or through you to the CAO. Going forward with this redesignation, does it touch any of our points relative to our housing strategy and our key priorities? Can you maybe just elaborate on that a bit, if at all? Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Very timely as well. So R1, low-density residential, single-detached dwellings, whatever you want to call them, in the housing strategy that was presented, and we'll talk about more today, Gage more on the 5th, they're not the housing designed to meet the most acute housing needs that the assessment and the survey is telling us that we need. However, they play a really important role because there is demand in Olds for continued R1 development. And right now, it's just the Vistas and the Highlands that are leading that right now. But I think broadly, the housing strategy is that we build more homes or enable private developers to build more homes that people want to buy and just diversify the housing stock. So even though R1 is not getting, say, as much attention, should council pass the housing strategy as other, let's say missing middle or rental homes based on the analysis and need demand that we have done, they're an essential part, especially something like this, a fairly modest rezoning for to continue already what has been a great development around a high demand community. So short answer, yeah.
You. Final call for comments? Very good. We have no further comments. Thank you. No further comments from our manager, planning and infrastructure. So at this time, I declare the public hearing closed at 1:19 p.m. Ask council, please, to go back to page 11 of your agenda, and I would ask for second reading, please. I've got 2, 3. Councillor Blatz? Who was? Oh, Councillor Ryan, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw 2025-06 be given second reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. And again, welcome back. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. And third and final reading, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw 2025-06 be given third reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried, and opposed is none. So we have carried that motion. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming. We'll see you again. We'll move down to page 18, please, of your agenda. And this is our bylaw 2025-06 07 procedure bylaw. We are looking for all readings today. We should be able to go ahead, or do you have a comment?
No, it's as council saw it in the committee of the whole package.
That's right.
So any other questions, I'm happy to take them.
Very good. We've all seen this, and we've talked, and I would like to ask for first reading. Please, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you. I move that council gives first reading to bylaw 2025-07, amendment to the procedural bylaw as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. I now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. No opposition. And second reading, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council give second reading to bylaw 2025-07, amendment to the procedural bylaw as presented.
Thank you. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Deputy Mayor, consent, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that unanimous consent be given for third and final reading of bylaw 2025-07, the amendment to the procedural bylaw.
Very good. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And third and final reading, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw 2025-07, amendment to the procedural bylaw as presented.
Thank you. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll move on now to item 3D, page 24, and this is the tax rate bylaw looking for second and third reading. Would you like to speak to this? C.L. Williams?
Yeah, I'm just going to pass it off to Director Lindeman, and she'll take us through this.
Thank you. As Mayor mentioned, we're looking for second and third reading today of our tax rate bylaw. No changes have been made since it was first presented April 14th. And just a reminder to council that in this bylaw was option 1, which is a 5% increase to the municipal portion of the average property tax, and then draw from reserves of $167,000. What this means for the average residential single-family home would be an increase to the municipal portion of $112 or $9.33 a month. And that is all.
Thank you very much. All right, folks, we're looking for second reading. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the tax rate bylaw 2025-09 be given second reading. And if I may be allowed to ask a question or comment, as I didn't in the committee of the whole meeting, I would appreciate it.
Don't see why not. Councillor Blatz, go ahead.
Thank you. And just for clarity's sake, as it's noted here with the requisitions from the education tax and the Mountain View seniors tax, this in essence is basically a 21% increase into our municipal taxes, is it not, Director Linderman?
It's a 5% increase to the municipal tax.
Oh, no, I know, but
overall tax.
those
to-
two portions,
To the
yeah. Yeah.
residential portion will be, yes.
Based on those two that we're collecting on behalf of the province.
Right, and that all,
Yeah.
the total amount goes to the province,
Right.
nothing comes to
Nothing
us.
comes to the town. I just wanted
Yes.
to clarify that
Yeah.
because I think that's really important that our residents realize that.
Yes.
And I do have another comment too, unless someone else has got one.
Go ahead, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, and through to Director Linderman too. I think it needs to be noted to the public as well that we did decrease our tax rate this time to stay within that 5%. Did we not?
So the residential tax rate will
Yes.
go down,
Right.
just over 2%, and then the non-residential tax will go up.
Perfect. That's, I wanted that clarity because I think that's very important because I did comparatives to some of our comparable municipalities and we are still very reasonable with our tax rate. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz has put first reading or second reading on the floor. Any further questions? I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Third and final reading, please. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that the tax rate bylaw 2025-09 be given third and final reading.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I will now call for the vote for third and final reading. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, and I thank administration for all their hard work. And we will move forward now. We have delegations. Page 30 of your agenda, item 4A, and I welcome, I'll turn this over to our financial, Sheena, for audited financial statements.
Thank you. I would like to call Jeff Falston up to present our 2024 financial statements, and Jeff is with Metrics Group.
Fun, I'm good to go or what? Okay, red means go, right? Okay. Seems to be like that everywhere. Anyways, thanks for having me here today to discuss the 2024 financial statements. My name is Jeff Allison. I'm a partner with Metrics Group, so responsible for the services that our firm provided to your town. So I know a couple people here from previously or the last couple days, so good to see everyone again. I just click to go to the next page, or does it? Oh, there we go. Okay. So usually to begin these presentations, I kind of give an overview of an audit, so why we have an audit and the importance of it, and really it's to enhance the degree of confidence of the intended users of those financial statements. So those main users being yourselves as counselors, ratepayers, municipal affairs, so those individuals or organizations with a vested interest in the financial performance of the town's financial statements. This is achieved by us as auditors, expressing an opinion on the financial statements. So we're looking to give assurance that the financial statements are free from a material misstatement. So what that means is that we're seeking reasonable assurance. So it's a high level of assurance, but it's not absolute. So we do not audit everything or every transaction that happened during the year. As auditors, we're also exercising professional judgment, maintaining professional skepticism. So a questioning mind. We want to stay to alert to conditions which may indicate possible misstatement. So areas such as cutoff, want to make sure that transactions have been recorded in the correct period. Revenue recognition, that revenue is being recognized once services or performance obligations have been met there. And as well as collectability of accounts receivables. So are your receivables deemed to be collectible subsequent to your end? And then also a critical assessment of audit evidence. So has any evidence been altered? Have we received evidence, potentially from a third party, directly for confirmation of balances there? When it comes to page 3 and 4 of your financial statement is our independent auditor's report. So here we give our opinion that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects. The financial position, results of operations in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So those are the same accounting standards that all other local governments report under, as well as all other government organizations. When it comes to the basis for opinion, here we note that we conducted our audit in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. The next part of the audit report outlines responsibility of management and those charged with governance for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements. And then the last part of the audit report outlines our responsibilities, which in turn, in summary, is our objective, which is to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. On this slide here is a snapshot of where the town was at, or your statement of financial position as at December 31, 2024. You'll see your cash position was up about 1.5 million as you had generated about 3.7 million in positive cash from operations during the year. You then spent about 1 million on debt repayment, spent about 4.4 million on tangible capital asset additions, and then also received about 3.4 million in proceeds from the sale of your investment in Olds Fiber. When it comes to taxes and grants in place of taxes, so here I got about 58% in current taxes, about 42% in arrears. When it comes to your tax situation, you have sufficient property value there. So there's no need for really an allowance associated with anything that's in arrears at the time, so you don't see an allowance for that, but about 720,000 in taxes owing at year end. Back to the statement of financial position, you'll see your trade and other at about 9.6 million. So here you've got about 3.2 million in developer contributions to be collected, 2.6 million in general trade and other, about 2 million from other governments, and then about 1.85 in holdback receivables in relation to the sale of Olds Fiber as well. When it comes to your loans receivable, that's in relation to money that was owed from Olds Fiber, with obviously the sale occurring in 2024. You'll see other transactions associated with that, but that is the change there. When it comes to inventory for consumption, you have 53,000 there, and then investments of 300,000, which is mainly a GIC at 3.25%, maturing in 2025. So that left the town with total financial assets about 18.6 million, or down about 10.7 million from prior year's 29 million. When it comes to your liabilities, so owing subsequent to year end, about 3 million there in accounts payable and accrued liabilities. Your employee benefit obligation of 334,000, so that's vacation as well as overtime pay. Deposit liabilities of 700,000, and then deferred revenue of just under $1 million. So your deferred revenue is made up of various grants that the city has, or town has collected to be spent on future projects. So you'll see your local government funding framework, which is a new grant program from the province, replacing the MSI of 1.2 million. You'll see your Canada Community Building Fund of 586, and as well as a Green and Inclusive Community Building Program initiative for the larger amounts collected in the year. Money was then spent on various items such as road work, water and wastewater, infrastructure, as capital projects were done, and funding was used for those items, leaving you with just under $1 million for upcoming year. Back to the statement of liabilities, you'll see asset retirement obligations. So this came into effect in prior year, but in turn, this relates to a retirement of assets, locating your tangible capital assets for environmental needs into the future. So that's been present valued as of today's date for a cost of $128 million, based on undiscounted cash flows of about $260,000. So as the years go on and you work towards a settlement date of those assets retiring, you'll see that liability increase year over year, with settlement dates expected between 2030 and 2054 in relation to the assets with the retirement there. When it comes to long-term debt, so the town had just under $27 million in debt at year end. You'll see debt related to OFL in there still for $8.9 million. No new debt in the year, and then you had repaid about $1.1 million versus the prior year, and about $846,000 of that in interest. When it comes to your debt limits, so your total debt limit is calculated at 1.5 times your operating revenues. So that is currently at $41.5 million. With total debt just under 27, you got about 15 million there in your debt limit unused. And then your debt servicing is 0.25 times your operating revenue. And that represents the total principal and interest to be repaid annually in relation to your debt. So well within that limit as well. After looking at your financial assets and liabilities, you see the town is in a net financial debt position of about $13.3 million, so about an $8.1 million change year over year. So mainly in relation to the decrease in the financial asset position from prior year to current year. When it comes to your non-financial assets, tangible capital assets, you'll see the town had additions in the year of just over $6 million. So you had various road project work and engineered structures, grader, tractor, vac truck purchase for machinery and equipment, as well as you completed your aquatic care roofing and 52nd Street work as well, which was moved out of construction in progress and transferred to engineered structures and buildings. When it comes to amortization expense, so that's at 4.6 million. So this kind of, from an accounting purpose, represents the usage of your assets. So as you purchase assets, they last 5 years, 10 years, 20, 40 years. You then take a percentage of those and they get expensed into operations. So kind of representing the useful life that those assets are supposed to last. So you had a usage of the year of 4.6 million, added 6 million, so you've seen an increase to your overall assets as you're more or less replacing what you're using in the year. Other non-financial assets include prepaid expenses, which left you at about 101 million, or a $1.5 million increase there year over year. So if you were to take your net financial debt position plus your non-financial debt or asset position, sorry, I should say, you end up with an accumulated surplus of about 87.7 million. So your accumulated surplus is broken out into a few categories: unrestricted surplus or a deficit of 2.6 million at year end, internally restricted reserves at 7.4. And then equity and tangible capital assets of 82. I'm sorry that you're missing the adding column. It should say 87.7 for the total in the current year and 94 million the prior year. So what you can kind of take from this is you'll see obviously your unrestricted surplus as well as your internally restricted, they kind of decreased year over year to the net of 8.8 million. And then your equity and tangible capital assets increased by 2.2. So although your deficit in the year, in accordance with Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards, will show us 6.6 million, really 2.2 million of that was offset by an increase in your capital assets, and 8.8 is really the decrease when it comes to your unrestricted and internally restricted reserves. On the statement of operations of your financial statements, you'll see your operating revenues at 27.7 million. You saw a net municipal tax increase here in relation to assessment value changes, about 5% year over year. User fees still at 10.5. Everything else was pretty consistent. You had $150,000 in ACP grant for government tranches for operating increase there. Investment income was down as you had less funds invested this year versus prior years. And then as well as others. So prior year you had forfeited some bond deposit there, was forfeited, so you got $91,000 for that, as well as some additional donation money in there. So that's why you see a zero for other this year and funds in there from prior year. So all in all, $98,000 increase year over year and about $156,000 comparable to budget. This is just kind of a pie chart where your revenues are coming from. Obviously, net municipal property taxes and user fees making up the two bulks there, 40% and 38%, as well as your franchise fees at 8% and operating grants at 6%. When it comes to various expenses for the town here, so your total expenses for the year at 31.1 million, so you were up about 1.25%. You had additional wages or full-time equivalency when it comes to parks and recreation there. Other changes to note in administration was up. You had a new work order system as well as IT contracted services there. And then as well as your policing with your RCMP costs increasing year over year up to 2.1 from 1.8. In comparison to budget, the budget is showing 26.7, but there is no budget for amortization within your financial statements. Your actual amortization expense is 4.6, and your variance from budget is 4.4, so that's why you're seeing that effect. When you look at this bar graph here, so we took out amortization and accretion expense, which are not budgeted for. You can see the line represents your budget, the light blue represents your current year, and the dark blue in the prior year. You can see everything is either at or below the line except for your council, administration, and general government category. That's in relation to an adjustment that we actually make to the actuals when it comes to interest on long-term debt in relation to the recoverable portion. So that gets netted into income, and then we kind of move it out of there as an expense and add it to revenue. So it's just not budgeted for, but that's causing the difference there. When it comes to expenses, you'll see obviously your salaries, wages, and benefits were up in relation to increased FTE for fire and rec departments there. Contract and general services, you had a feasibility study for the sportsplex as well as transportation study in there. Other items, materials, goods, and services, you had the new work order system costs in there. And then as well as your interest on long-term debt. So that's just over budget in relation to the last comment I made for the additional amount that comes out of revenue into expense. So they increase the revenue and increase the expense, I should say, for that. Leaving you again with 31.1 million. And then you can see from the amortization, the 4.6 million versus 483 for really the difference there. So when you look at your total operating revenue less expenses, you end up with an operating deficit in the year of 3.4 million. When you factor in the amortization of 4.4 million, you end up with a operating surplus there of 1.1 if you back that out. When it comes to other revenues, government tranches for capital of 3 million, so this is in relation to MSI and Canada Community Building Fund grants, which were used for capital asset purchases, 3 million. You had contributed assets, not capital donations. That was in relation to assets in relation to roads and sewer and water there. When it comes to your net loss on the sale of Olds Fiber, so that's in here at 7.8 million. So there's a note in the financial statement that kind of breaks that out, but in summary, there's a forgivable portion of debt in relation to that, and then as well as a sale of shares as the shares were sold to another organization. So the net effect change is a $7.8 million loss when it comes to the Olds Fiber limited sale there, leaving you with an annual deficit of 6.6 million. So opening accumulated surplus of 94 less the 6 million gets you to 87.7. So in turn, the town is obviously the loss caused you a $6.6 million deficit. You're in a net financial debt position of 13 million. So what that means is you currently, if you were to take your financial assets, your cash, investments, collect your receivables, you would have more obligations than you currently have for financial assets. So obviously something to be mindful of, and I'm sure you're working towards being in a net financial asset position. But you know, this kind of, you're not the only municipality audit that's in a net financial debt position, and it does happen over time with things. So in turn, I got an audit finance report that I'll go over as well, but there were no significant control deficiencies, unusual accounting policies. We have some unrecorded misstatements, and no significant difficulties to note to council. I just want to thank Sheena, Rebecca, and the team, and if anybody has any questions, I can definitely address those now, or I can jump into the other report.
I'll just ask council at this point if they have questions to what you've just shared. Seeing none, we'll move forward. Thank you.
Okay. Actually, just this one.
Just this guy still?
Well, just, you have this one part? Yeah. I think this one is done in public here.
One moment, I have Councillor Wilson who does have a question.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and thanks, Jeff. Just on the net financial debt, how, like you mentioned, we're not the only municipality in that position, but I'm looking at the order of magnitude, 13 million versus 5 million previous. So what's the significance of that? As you said, in simple terms, our assets are less than our liabilities. What does that mean going forward then? What's the red flag for this council in terms of, and you know, trying to whittle away that $13 million net debt?
I would just obviously be mindful that you're going to have a positive cash flow kind of going forward. So as you're making your debt repayments and you're paying those down, that your financial asset position is increasing. Obviously, your long-term debt will be decreasing as you pay it down, and you'll steadily chip away at the debt position and kind of work your way down. That's kind of, you know, it. Usually, I'll see, you know, larger debt loads taken on for projects, and then obviously over time you're making those payments, collecting whether fees or taxes in relation to those projects or not, and then paying them down. That's kind of just the cycle that you more or less see. So obviously being in a debt position, you know, just being mindful of the payments and making sure that you're having enough cash to meet all those obligations, really.
That was a sturdy answer. Thank you. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, and I don't know if this is a question I should or could be asking, and perhaps maybe not for Jeff, but maybe for Sheen, for Director Linderman, or for CAO Williams. But to date, though, with our OFL debt, we have made no lump sum payments as of yet, or paid down any of that current debt. Will that make a change to this current situation that we have? I just want clarity on that if I could.
So we will be making a payment in June of this. It'll be released soon, but the 3.5 million will be a lump sum payment.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, Mr. Alston, you may as well move forward. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, this part of our presentation or report, this is our audit findings report, so kind of the qualitative part of it, any findings that we would have had in relation to the work we did. When it comes, there's a report contents and then executive summary. So really the purpose of this report is to promote two-way communication between ourselves as auditors and yourselves as council. So in order to complete our work today and have signed audited financial statements, we'll obtain our legal letter inquiries. We'll obtain subsequent event procedures up to today's date. We'll obtain a signed management representation letter, complete our required communication, which is what we're doing right now, And then we'll obtain evidence of council's approval. Once we have all those items, we'll be able to issue signed audited financial statements. When it comes to changes from our audit plan, the only change there is in relation to materiality, as we initially set it based on our audit plan using prior year actuals, and then adjust our materiality based on our ending current year results. So when it comes to materiality, we use 4% of operating expenses, or roughly 1.2 million here, which means that if your revenues or expenses, say, were to increase or decrease by that amount, we feel that a user of the financial statement, so yourselves as councillors, ratepayers, municipal affairs, may have a different view or outlook on the financial performance of the town. When it comes to significant difficulties, we did not encounter any significant difficulties to note to council. When it comes to the engagement team, so myself and Dylan responsible for the services that our firm provided to the town. When it comes to audit results, I'll go over a couple of these, but the main one here being management override of controls. So management's in a unique position to potentially perpetrate or manipulate the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error. So we use data analytic tools that'll identify journal entries that may be indicative of that. So entries outside of, say, business hours, on the weekend, certain number sequences. So it's looking for anything that's kind of odd or unusual. And then we would then test those. So we had no significant findings in that area. When it comes to revenue recognition, so here the risk is really that your revenue is being recognized prematurely, so not in relation to restrictions set out by either external funders. So we assess that, review your grant agreements, confirmations, look at your projects associated with everything. So we had no significant findings in that area as well. On the next page, we talk about municipal property taxes as well as user fees. We did not have any findings in those areas. Same with operating expenses and wages and benefits. When it comes to your cash and investments, no findings in there. Receivable balances as well. And then tangible capital assets, which is a big risk for us. So making sure that items, that have been capitalized meet the definition, or if you have any items that are potentially expense that should be capitalized in the year, as well as your amortization expense. So we had no findings in that area. When it comes to misstatements, so we had 6 proposed adjusting entries versus 9 the prior year. The balances are a bit higher just in relation to the OFL adjustments that we did with management there in relation to that transaction. So not really anything of alarm. But when you see those larger numbers, it's really in relation to those. When it comes to unrecorded misstatements, so we ended up with an understatement of the town's deficit here of $172,000. So we had a proposed adjustment to record allowance for doubtful accounts for taxes outstanding that are more than 1 year. So again, that's just $172,000. So we don't feel that this would change or mislead anyone's opinion of the financial statements when it comes to the town's presentation. When it comes to the control environment here, significant deficiencies in internal controls, so we don't have any of those to note. When it comes to significant qualitative aspects of accounting policies, so I've added this in for this year in relation to work next year that I'll do with the finance team, but in relation to your off-site levies. So currently, when you collect off-site levies, you recognize those as revenue on a cash basis and put it into your reserves. Within the Municipal Government Act, off-site levies are restricted for capital asset work within the municipal boundary. That creates a liability or an obligation for the town to spend those funds in accordance with the MGA when it comes to the requirement there. So currently, with it sitting in your reserves from the accounting treatment, it's kind of saying that you've already recognized the revenue or done the work, and that's why it's in your reserves. But in theory, you still need to apply it to a capital project for it to then be flowed through into your accumulated surplus. So we're going to work with management to get that kind of change for next year in relation to that. Also, if you have any projects that are front-ended, so the town potentially could have projects that you front-ended a larger sewer line, water line in an area in hopes of collecting developer levies in the future to offset the costs associated with that. We want to get those reflected in your reserves as well to be tracking the repayment. So we're going to work to do some additional work in there and make some changes for next year's financial presentation for that. When it comes to significant qualitative aspects of accounting estimates, so we feel that your estimates for useful life of tangible capital assets, your asset retirement obligations, those are all in line with best information available at the time. We will issue a management letter for any non-significant items that we had noted while performing our work. When it comes to appendices, Appendix 1, this is really in relation to our independence. So we are independent of the town, so we do not hold a financial interest position, have a personal or business relationship, or economic dependence. Appendix 2 is our management representation letter that we'll get Brent and Sheena to sign in relation to a completion of the audited financial statements. And then the last one is, sorry, for Appendix 3. So here, you're going to see a change in your financial statement presentation for December 31, 2027. So you're going to see your non-financial asset position at the bottom of your statements move actually up near the top under the financial assets. You're going to see a total asset line item there. You're going to see financial liabilities, non-financial liabilities, and net assets. And then those three will in turn add up and equal to your total assets. So you'll have more of a traditional balance sheet approach there. That'll change. There'll also be a statement for financial asset position, so financial assets less financial liabilities, and then a statement of accumulated surplus, which in turn will be net assets, statement of remeasurement gain losses, as well as your reserves and unrestricted. So a change in the presentation there of the financial statements. There are also a few other conceptual frameworks. I know there's one in relation to budget presentation and some note disclosure there, but I'll have some more on that maybe for next year, but that's still a few years down the road, so just noting that that change will occur. So that's kind of it for our audit findings report. I guess if anybody has any questions on these, I can definitely address them as well.
Are the changes for the reasoning of just the times of how people are doing things, or?
You know, I think there's a board in relation to public sector accounting standards, like a national board across Canada. So I mean, they're always looking at the standards and frameworks and information and making changes. I think the public sector accounting standards have been, they kind of lag the international financial reporting standards and stuff like that. So we've kind of been, they take stuff from there to catch up and then look at kind of the presentation. And is the information to the user being presented good, or should it be updated, I think, is probably where that one's coming from,
Yeah, less is better.
yeah. I don't.
Okay, we have a question from Councillor Wilson, and anybody else, just show your hand, and then Councillor Platts.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I believe a question either for the director or for the CAO. Just, and I want to make sure I heard Jeff correctly. And my question, in terms of moving the meter, pales relative to the materiality when you talk 172,000 for the allowance for doubtful accounts compared to some of the ONET transactions. But did I hear that so we got 172,000 in potential bad debt for outstanding tax greater than a year, and we've taken a charge against earnings or income or expense? Am I hearing all that right, or am I missing something?
So right now, how we have it is sitting in a receivable, and Jeff and Mitch's group are recommending that it should be an allowance for doubtful accounts. The reason we, management, haven't done that is because those are collectible to us. We will, you ultimately go to tax sale, right? So we will collect that money. And that's been our position.
Truly, yeah. So, okay, and that's the confirmation I was looking for. So we do have a high degree of probability of success in terms of collecting those funds.
Correct, yes.
Okay, yep.
Very good, Councillor Platts.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. This is probably through you to either Director Linderman or CEO Williams. So with our $6.6 million deficit, this is, if we were to take away the ONET loss, we would have a fairly normal year, would we not? And like this ONET loss is really sort of an accumulation over years since probably about 2007. Am I correct in understanding that?
Correct. It would have been a normal year had that loss not been in there.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Any further questions for Mr. Alliston? Oh, CEO Williams?
Thanks, Mayor Dahl. Not a question for Jeff directly. Thank you for the presentation. Just a update for, well, council already knows, but people watching it in the gallery. During the November 5th transaction hearing that we held for OFL Limited, there was a promise of a post-report after our financial statements. That will be released on Monday, a week from today, and it will outline some summary information presented on that date, some other information, but also more information about the transaction, which was a sale of ONET to TELUS for the transaction price of $11 million, effective November 5th, 2024. The resulting debt left, with the debt forgiveness baked in, and then our plan to make lump sum payments with the proceeds we have left over and service the remaining debt until what we expect to be the loan maturation date of 2031. So that report is again released next Monday, and I'll present on it accordingly with more information regarding that transaction and why our financial statements look a bit different than usual. So.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, through you to Jeff. I just had a question on the materiality. So that 4% you were talking about, is that the same for all audits, or is it different from municipality to municipality, or how do you calculate that?
It's kind of more professional judgment, but it could range anywhere from 2% up to 5%. Sometimes it's used based, if you're looking at a specific company that's more driven by, say, their profit margin, sometimes you use that versus, in our case here, we're using expenses, which we find expenses to be pretty consistent as you're budgeting in the year for how much you're going to spend in the year for operations. So we usually like to use expenses, but it kind of changes in relation to those kind of benchmarks. Usually when we kind of start a newer audit, we usually have a lower percentage, and then we kind of increase it as we get more comfortable. Not really more comfortable, but we have a better understanding of all the operations and what's going on. And we're only talking about 6 proposed adjustments or 9. That's kind of lower for us. We're not talking 40 or 60, and then we have to really watch where our main materiality rates would be. And then also a factor in there is we have what's called performance materiality, which we don't talk about in our report, but ours is set at 75%. So if we were to actually hit 75% of the 1.2 million, we would already be discussing with management in relation to proposed adjustments to the statements in relation to that as well. So we've given ourselves more of a benchmark or a buffer zone, I guess, if there are errors that we had missed while performing our work. So we're kind of, yeah.
Thank you. That kind of makes sense to me, but I was just concerned about having that high number of the 1.25. It just seems a little bit above the normal, like from some of the boards that I've been sitting on, it's much lower than that. So I'm just was wondering if that causes any concern at using that as a benchmark.
Yeah, we usually, although we use 4%, we use a lower performance materiality threshold. Like if we were to use 3%, but then if we use 90% for PM, we'd be at the same kind of, but we'd be at the same thing as where we are with 4 and 75. So it's just more of I guess, how it's presented, but yeah. Yep.
Thank you very much. I believe everybody's had an opportunity to speak, and you're at the end of your presentation.
Yeah.
Mr. Allison? All right. I will ask my counsel at this time to entertain a motion for number 1 for the audit findings. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and thank you, Jeff, for your presentation today. Again, I like the way that you deliver your bad news, I guess today would be the best way to describe it. But thank you again for your presentation. I move that the 2024 audit findings report be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. I will call for the vote at this time. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And also for the consolidated financial statements, please, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the 2024 consolidated financial statements for the town of Olds be approved as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. Call for the vote. Those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And once again, Mr. Alliston, thank you for your time. Sorry we had you too far down the list there. Take care and, yeah. Okay, well, drive safe. Thank you. All right, if you would please turn to page 32, please, of your agenda, item 4B. This is our Community Services Quarterly Report. I understand it would be probably Director Lapointe. The mic is yours.
Good afternoon, Mayor Dahl and Council. Today, administration is happy to share a high-level Q1 summary for the Community Services Division. I'll start off with the Community Development Department, where you can see the information referrals seemed a little lighter on volume this time around, while both partnerships and bookings were quite robust. If you move along Marcy, we can see that the cemetery looks to be experiencing rather typical use, while the Sunshine Bus has had a strong first quarter. I flip back to last year's reporting. Last year use for the same period was 582 rides. So we had seen approximately a 37% increase in ridership in Q1 for the Sunshine Bus. As for some of the highlights for the department, the men's shed continues to experience significant growth. The FCSS grant program was able to support 8 local organizations, and the storefront beautification program received 20 applications, which we thought was well above our expectations for year 1 of the initiative. In Q2, community development will be focused on Canada Day, Seniors Week, and some efforts around social prescribing, and I'm happy to answer some questions around that one afterwards if you want a definition of social prescribing. Over in Parks and Recreation, the pool looks to be up across the board, while there was some slippage at the Sportsplex, and that was primarily due to minor hockey teams and the junior squad not qualifying for their playoffs this year. Not surprisingly, the Parks Department spent much of its time on snow removal, along with some health and safety and planning work. Significant happenings for the quarter included converting some casual lifeguard hours into 2 part-time positions, as well as a finalized lease agreement with the new Olds Grizzlies management team. Next quarter, the focus will be on the new naturalization plan implementation, as well as the completion of the Sportsplex 10-year capital and playground replacement plans. Finally, communications and engagement continue to see consistent growth across all of our social media platforms. The Amplifier was launched with some good success, and you can see the relatively high open and click rates. I think that's on 2 more down there. Marcy, yeah, right there, you can see the high click rates. On the next page, you'll see the Aquatic Center continues to be our top page visited outside, of course, the home page. And their upcoming quarter work will focus, or actually this quarter's work was focused around development of the communication strategy, the marketing plan, and recent policy review. Next quarter will be primarily concentrated around advancing several planned engagements and a new approach to Mountain View Power marketing efforts. And with that, I'm open to any specific questions council may have.
Thank you very much, and we'll start with Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just have a comment to start off with, and that is, thanks for your presentation. However, there seems to be no rhyme or reason. Well, I shouldn't say rhyme or reason. It seems to be a little bit mixed up here with regards to how the reporting is done. We've got some that show just the first quarter. Some show first quarter with a comparison to first quarter last year. Some show the entire year. So I would like to see a little bit of the reporting done so that it's the same throughout. In particular, even when you're taking a look at, the very first page when you've got information referrals, Q1, 84, well, it doesn't really say enough to me to say, okay, are we doing better? Especially when we have the CCC, which does have year stats. I'd like to see it when it comes next quarter, if we could get the comparisons so that we can actually track a little bit better as to saying to council, this is improving, this is decreasing, what is our, how it's looking, and then we can respond to that. To me, just showing the first quarter doesn't say a lot to me, and when you actually are looking at 2024 total, it's not giving me enough information is what I'm saying. So if we could see that in the future, I don't know how difficult that is, Director Lapointe, but certainly I would like to see that. And you made mention of the Sunshine Bus, and that was one of the things. Like, that's great news. And that's something that council should know, that we've actually seen an increase from one quarter to the next in comparison to quarter one and quarter one in 2023. So that would just be my comment. And I did have a question about that social prescribing steering committee. I didn't know what that was, so I did have a question about that. If you could elaborate on that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, and if I may answer the first question on the stats, I don't think that that's an issue at all. I think each manager has sort of inputted what they thought was relevant, and so we can put that consistency in there for sure. Sure.
I was looking for his consistency, yeah.
In terms of social prescribing, it's a new initiative that's being headed up by the province. Actually, there's grant funding that's out there for it at the moment. We're helping facilitate the process, but basically it's, the hope is to address mental health issues within the community. And so practitioners, medical practitioners can actually prescribe for somebody to attend the men's shed. And so they actually get basically a prescription that says, please attend the men's shed or various other sort of opportunities within the community as well. So it's linking up the practitioners with these other opportunities within the community.
Thank you very much. I see an uptake in Jean's Place is still growing.
Yeah, the demand seems to be insatiable there for the moment. So.
I thought I'd ask the request that Councillor Ryan had. Does council wish to speak to any of those points before all the work gets done? I understand her point as well. I just want to make sure any councillors have any comments as well. No, it's good. Very good. Oh, Deputy Mayor Walsh.
Yeah, just a comment on a painting class for seniors. I helped a friend celebrate her 86th birthday Friday night, and she attended this class, and she couldn't speak more highly about it than anything else. She got her out of her home, it got her visiting with people and doing something she enjoyed. She just thought was great. She just thought you need to do it more. So kudos to the, I don't know whose department this is, but yeah, it was a great idea to help seniors get out of their senior room and meet with people.
Yes, I heard great comments about that as well. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to the director. Just you reference the phase rollout in Q2, I guess, of the marketing strategy, the marketing plan. If you could talk a little bit about that, I'm quite interested. We just heard the financial story and how financially challenged, my words, I guess, that our town is. So I'm very interested going forward, and we've talked about a little bit in the past around revenue growth opportunities, whether it be with the aquatic center, whether it be with the sportsplex and rentals and everything. If you could kind of paint a little bit of a picture as to how that'll all come together, whether it's with the marketing strategy or just as a standalone, because to me that ancillary revenue is becoming a bigger picture for a financially challenged town. Excuse me.
If you'll recall, that budget is rather small. I think it's about $15,000 as we're piloting this to begin with. I think the approach from our side of things is going to be focusing on building blocks and probably around videos. And what I mean by building blocks is developing a marketing campaign that can be used in different ways. And so if we build an emotionally laden video that talks about how great Olds is, there may be B-roll within that could be moved around and used for economic development purposes. And so the plan is to try to build as much redundancy into the marketing plan as possible so that it can be used in different ways across the entire community. And that may actually work for other nonprofit organizations or some of our community groups as well. And so we all want to be talking the same language, maybe sharing some of those costs as well, to really leverage as much out of this marketing plan as possible.
Thank you for sharing that information. It's very good. No further comments? Director Lapointe, thank you very much for sharing your report and taking our feedback. And I would ask now for a motion, please, to accept as presented. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council accepts the Community Services Quarterly Report as presented for information.
Very good, and thank you for your questions, everyone. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. All right, we are moving along now to page 48, item 4C, and this is our Chief Administrator Officer's quarterly report.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. So to jump into quarter one, which encompasses Invest Olds, Ledge Services, Mountain View Power, and some special projects. To start with Invest Olds, a few highlights from here: that the Brood survey, which was a big push in late winter, early spring, had great results with almost 700 businesses returning the survey throughout central Alberta. The cluster analysis, which is in conjunction with the survey, has been completed as well, and we'll be reporting on that once the EDAC committee gets through it. From business development, investment, attraction, I think Q1 we had 39 new business starts in Olds based on business license activity, which is always great to see, and no shortage of investor interest on the housing and industrial side that we're currently working through. And on the project side down bottom, the provincially led but locally administered immigration programs, RRS and RES, the larger one has been on hold, the rural renewal stream, since February, and we're not sure when that will be reopened by the province, but the rural entrepreneur stream still is seeing a fair amount of interest. Through Ledge Services, just a list of the bylaws and policies that Council has approved since last meeting. The org review, this is where I touched on it last time I presented my quarterly update. We're at the point now where we can start marking some of those items complete that don't quite have a clear end. Something like number 41, that the infrastructure department ensures that each staff member is aware of who and what, for example. That is not necessarily a destination, but a journey, if you will. So we're at a comfortable point now where we can mark those complete, whereas other things Council has done specific actions, like reviewing and updating the engagement policy and completing the pavement assessment. So we're seeing progress on that, and I think by the end of September, we'll have most of the report materially complete. Also in Ledge Services, just a FYI about the election. Everyone knows about it, but we have scheduled our advance polls, October 9th, 16th, 18th, all at Jean's Place at the CCC, will be advance polls, and then Election Day, which is obviously provincially set, will be as standard at the Legion from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Results will be obviously a bit delayed given the hand counting of ballot requirements, but Marcy runs a tight ship, so I'm sure she'll do great things, but by herself. Mountain View Power. So the spring grant intake for the community grant program has closed. We had 14 applications, I believe just over $100,000 in ask for, I believe it's about $50,000 in funding this tranche. And the committee is meeting next week to build those recommendations for council. Back to Mountain View Power, if you don't mind, Marcy. Maybe I can do it here. Oh, too far ahead. The storefront improvement grant closed as well, and this actually was a resounding success in terms of interest. We had 21 applications received from uptown businesses. For the $20,000 available, there was $56,000 in total asks. So the committee, which consists of 3 at-large members and headed up by Gary in our community services /ECDev department, they have met and I believe have awarded several applications, and a formal announcement will be made shortly, but it's great to see this getting the interest, and if we're able to hold steady or perhaps even increase this annual allocation to the improvement grant, I believe after 3, 5, certainly 10 years, we'll start seeing that uptown beautification take place. MV performance has continued to be flat in both customer and revenue, but we're seeing significant upward trends in March and April. We've been hitting the marketing arm pretty hard with the local first, and not to make this a whistleblower stop, but a lot of our competitors are American-based or at least American partly owned, and Mountain View Power even though we have partnerships with UtilityNet, is all Alberta-based, with profit staying in the community. So I think that messaging is getting across. And then looking ahead, we do expect one potential cash call in 2025, but our reserves are adequate. And as Director Lapointe mentioned, we do have new marketing promotional ideas in the queue. Just a brief update on sponsorship donations for council-led budget. There's about $4,500 remaining in that kitty for the rest of the year. Those are the lists. And Mountain View Power sponsorship, only 2 to date. One that council did, and another one was a $500 donation that I did. Then projects and initiatives, so office relocation project. So the construction is on schedule for no significant deviations from intent or budget anticipated at this time. We do anticipate closing this office on July 7th and reopening at the new office July 21st. Once that plan is totally confirmed, of course, and we get closer to the date, we'll have public communication and advertising going forward. We'll still be available to answer phone calls and emails, have our Dropbox for people who prefer paying in person, but we will need 2 weeks to transition people, furniture, IT, etc., from one office to another. But we'll still be answering phones and conducting business mostly as normal. As I spoke to just a moment ago during Jeff's presentation, the ONET financial report will be released on May 5th, both in physical form and a brief word from myself. Business planning ongoing, advocacy ongoing, and then some miscellaneous items that a regional multiplex study, which we're funded for, is about to kick off, just confirming with all the partners their continued commitment. Old fire hall renovations are nearing completion on the food bank side, and we're still discussing next steps with the Men's Shed and Arts Hub, who also we received some funding for the smaller Quonset renovation. And one of my last ones, housing needs survey closed, and 346 responses, which for us is exceptional, not surprising. Similar responses, comments to the 2023 needs survey, but much more acute. That affordability is a major concern. Our rental supply, extremely tight. The quantitative analysis that was presented on last meeting did say that it was around 0.6% rental vacancy rate in town, which is critically low. And then seniors and young adults seem to share a corresponding related need in terms of the lack of adequately sized homes to fit their needs. So nothing we haven't heard in the data analysis, but it's important to confirm that at the personal level. So the consultant who's leading all of this, they're finishing up one-on-one interviews with stakeholders in housing, like the college, the school division, Moxon House, et cetera. The needs assessment, which is essentially just the survey data and the quantitative analysis into one document. We expect that in late May to be delivered to us. And the open house, as Councillor Wilson mentioned earlier this meeting, May 5th, 11 to 1 and 5 to 7 right here in council chambers. And more information is available on our website about all of this. Health and safety, we had quite a few in number. Fortunately, they're not all as bad as it looks. Some of this was witnessed a vehicle collision. Another one was just getting stuck, which we report. There was a theft, or sorry, a break-in at one of our reservoirs, looking for copper wire, but we don't have copper wire at a water reservoir. So, but there is a growing, not a trend yet, but certainly ebbs and flows of backing up incidents. So we're going to be instituting some driver training into our outdoor operations staff, starting this spring into the summer, just to try to head some of that off. And of course, as we buy new vehicles, ensuring things like backup cameras come factory installed. Report a problem summary, fairly standard month to month. It is highly weather dependent when it snows, for example, but still getting pretty solid utilization, but encourage everyone to utilize that system as it is quite helpful for us. And then same thing, weather dependent, but road issues and parks issues are the leading indicators. And that's all I had. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could we go back to the slide that had the date and time of the open house for, okay, so yeah, open house in the morning, then our meeting at 1, and then 5. Okay, perfect. It went by kind of quick. I'm like, hey, May the 5th, don't we have a whole bunch of stuff going on May the 5th? Thanks.
Just for the viewers, so they understand that we have a committee of the whole meeting at 1 PM, so council will have that going on, and then we'll reopen the council chambers. I believe it's in here, is it? From 5 to 7. Thank you. Further questions, Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, through you to CEO Williams. On the Mountain View Power uptake, I guess, I was wondering about doing advertising that would, have a Canada flag on it, or have a shop locally kind of themed to it, because that seems to be sweeping the nation, and we should hop on board, especially when we put it on. I think we should continue to put it on our Facebook page almost daily, and try to really start promoting it a little bit more, because I think when I talk to people, that's one of the first things I say to them is, hey, it's local, and the money stays here, and they go, oh, didn't know that. Yeah, I'll be interested in now. So I think that's really important to get that word out there, and to just continue to hammer it home that money stays here. We're giving a lot of that profit back into the community, and I can't remember how much money it is now, but I think it was $250,000 at one point, so it's probably higher now. Or
A very good point, and I think it's approaching $300,000 with this latest intake, or just over. And that's only through the grants. We also fund things like Canada Day and other events, but certainly we are trying to hop on that latest wave of patriotism bandwagon, if you will, but it is sincere, it's not facetious, that it is a pretty remarkable program that actually came about through OI and ONET, so we should also pay homage to the fact that there's bright spots in the worst parts of news. So.
And just to add to that, before I get to you, Councillor Wilson, there are still a lot of our local residents that are still not 100% sure whether they're just moving to Olds or relocating, how it works. And when they hear that, they're just, really? So kudos to you guys, and we'll move on. Is there another question or comment for our CAO? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I had two short snappers for the CAO. One is, remind me what the size of the Mountain View Power grant pool is for this intake?
For this intake, we're projecting $50,000, and we're inverse this year. We're going to do the $70,000 in the fall. I believe it will be the 2 tranches.
Thank you, and not a supplemental, but with the new operations center revamp renovation, I don't want to put the cart too far before the horse, but I assume we'll be looking sometime in the fall before September and the snow flies to have an open house or something?
Certainly, I think we talked about it internally already. We're guessing that sometime in September would be, make sure all the lights turn on, the streaming works, and first get the bugs out. But yeah, September is our planned open house day-ish.
Bugs. Okay. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Just to piggyback on that op center thing, you'd mentioned that the office here will be closed for those 2 weeks, and that people can still call in. Is there going to be any opportunity for still people for in-person at any time? Because I know that we do have quite a few people that still want to pay bills in person. So would they be able to go to the main office over at the op center for that, or is it just going to be like on hold for the 2 weeks?
Yeah, so we haven't worked out all the details yet, just because we have different, even with all our facilities, we have some with like point of sale systems, but not the correct software, or vice versa, correct software. So for the time being, we're saying the 2 weeks will be no face-to-face for payments, but they're still online over the phone. We do that via online banking or the Dropbox, which will remain open for people who have their bill and their cash or their check as well. But that may change if we're able to find a suitable solution. I just haven't thought of one yet, based on logistics.
Okay, and supplemental on that Dropbox, would it be still here, or would we move that over to the op center and they can do the Dropbox over there?
Actually, there's Dropbox at both locations, so yeah, either one would be fine.
Well, that's a good question. We have to be cognizant, of course, of those payments so that nobody gets penalties for late payments. That's the key, yeah. If there's nothing further for our CAO, I would ask for a motion. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move the council accepts the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer, OCAO, quarterly report as presented.
Thank you very much, Councillor Blatz. I call the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving down to page 49 of your agenda, please, and this is the Town of Old's land sale. CAO Williams?
Thank you again, Mayor Dahl. So I'll just take a moment to explain what's in the background. A decade and more ago, the town started liaising with Habitat for Humanity, and over the course of that relationship, donated several lots, residential lots, to the organization to develop affordable and housing for at-needs individuals and families. Last year, we were contacted by Habitat for Humanity, their Central Alberta chapter, which is based in Calgary, notifying us that they were divesting themselves in Central Alberta, at least the Olds area, I should say. So that means the duplex, the one duplex they did build was sold privately, so they're not involved in it anymore, and the caveats that exist would be discharged. And the land that they didn't develop on, immediately adjacent to what they did build, was coming back, per the agreement, being offered back to the town as the original owner. So after discussing the council in closed session, we did agree to take that land back. We did reimburse them for some expenses that were incurred reclaiming that land. It was some soil contamination, brownfield as it's called. But now the deal has been signed, land titles, registrations are pending, and now I'm seeking council direction to list for sale those lots at what we believe is fair market value, $150,000. It has been rezoned or will be rezoned to the use intended in the East Olds Area Structure Plan, which is an R3 zone parcel. And if council agrees, they will go live as early as tomorrow for public sale on an as-is, where-is basis. But happy to take any questions on these lots.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that history for the viewers as well. Does council have any questions? Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to CAO Williams. 150,000 for both lots then, for clarification, or is it 150,000 each?
I should specify, right now there's two lots. We'll consolidate the lots back into one parcel. They were subdivided for duplex, but given that we want to provide some flexibility with the R3 zoning, so after land titles goes through, we'll consolidate into one parcel. So it'll be 150 for one parcel. Sorry, I should have made that clear.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, thank you for that question. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, through you to the CEO. So just if you could help me understand, so this isn't like a reserve bid auction process, or is it, or it'll be listed with multiple real estate listing at an ask of 150,000, and we could get into a bidding war and get more, hopefully?
That's a possibility, yeah. It's going to be listed not with the real estate agent, but real estate agents are encouraged to reach out, and we can discuss what that looks like, but it's just first come, first serve. We'll entertain any offer that's put forward, but obviously, as per our council policy and the MGA, that we believe market value is 150, and if we sell significantly below that, council will have to be involved, but I guess, yeah, we'll accept first come, first serve.
Much the same as Councillor Wilson, first come, first serve. If we have a couple people that come with the same offer, Will you reevaluate that to open that to take the highest offer?
Essentially, yes, yeah, it'd be the highest offer.
Very good, thank you. That's clear then. Any further questions? I would ask motion then, please. I would ask for a motion for the sale price of $150,000. Actually, I'll go to Deputy Mayor Walsh.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I move that council direct our Chief Administrative Officer to list lots 31 and 32, Block 11, Plan 1711276 for sale at a price of $150,000.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Walsh. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, and thank you for the information, C.O. Williams. I'd ask you to move to page 50, please, of your agenda. This is correspondence and information. I'm sure that it was in your agenda package. If you have any questions to the correspondence, this is your time to ask the questions prior to a motion. No questions? Motion, please. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the correspondence and information report ending April 28th, 2025 be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Please move to reports from council on page 61 of your agenda, item 7A. I will note that we have reports in our agenda, and I will start around the table with the two that are not there, and we'll start with Deputy Mayor Walsh and then move to Councillor Cummings.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. It's just a few to report. On April 1st, I attended the Town South Zone Alberta Muni's, I guess, a virtual session here at the Town of Olds, and also EDAC committee meeting later that afternoon. April 14th, participated in the CO evaluation in our ad hoc committee meeting. April 16th, the library board meeting, one of the shorter ones. It went fairly quickly. Other than that, all regular council meetings I've attended this past month.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. We'll go to Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So aside from the regular things that we've all attended, the Volunteer Appreciation Day and our regular meetings in the AB Muni's virtual town hall, I did this morning attend the annual general meeting and regular meeting for the Mountain View Regional Waste Management Commission. Again, our AGM is when we see the financial audited reports or audited financial reports for the commission, which was substantially great, green in every category, just as the town of Olds was this morning or this afternoon. We did see a $500,000 increase in the surplus through, which was, of course, always good. We got a lot of extra dirt. The one issue that was brought up during the audited financial reports, though, was the relocation of the facility. So the Didsbury landfill is expanding into a new area to build more airspace. Unfortunately, somebody at the beginning conceived of putting all the buildings on that land space or that airspace, and all the buildings have to move. So we've just finished creating a space on the roadway going into the main landfill area where the scale will be moved to in the next couple of months. And we'll be tearing down one of the buildings completely and refurbishing one building. The white tent, for those of you who have been there before, that's off to the west, is actually not in the airspace, so that building will be saved. But everything else will be destroyed and or moved. So that came at a little bit of a cost, but it was absorbed into the added revenue that we got from some unexpected hydrocarbon dirt that was dropped off there. EPR has been a big question because, of course, that's the provincial program where our producers of recyclable material will now fund recycling in the province. Last meeting, we were told about that being done here for the town of Olds as of April the 1st. Mountain View Regional Waste is a participant in the program, but mostly just for the county. And because we're so low on the priority, we're not looking till next year, maybe, before we are involved in that, so. And that was about all of the fun stuff that happened in that meeting. We are going to be sending, if we haven't already sent, the audited financials to administration here at the town, because we are part or parcel to that program. That's it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Does council have any questions? I would ask for a motion, please. Or Councillor Ryan?
Sorry, Mayor Dahl, I thank you very much for coming to me. I did put in my report about the SRD RWC, which is the Wastewater Commission, that I would talk about our meeting that was last Friday. My report was done before the meeting was held. We too had the audited financial report presented with no significant problems to report. Fairly straightforward. Two items I wanted to bring forward, though, was the emergency storm pond for Innisfil, which has been under construction for the last few weeks, I guess, or a little more, actually, is almost completed, and the ESP for Olds is expected to be budgeted in 2026. So there'll be discussion that will happen with our administration over the next few months with regards to where it will go and what the scope of that project will be.
Well, thank you for that, bringing that to our attention. Now I would ask for a motion, if anybody would like to make a motion. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that reports from council, boards, committees, and commissions ending April 28, 2025 be received for information.
Very good. I will now call for the motion. Those in favor? That is carried, and thank you all for your reports and your time speaking on what you have done the past couple months. We are now at item that is notice of motion. There'll be no motion required, and it'll be debated and voted on May 12th, but I will ask CO Williams if he would like to speak to this at all.
Just briefly to introduce what's on the screen, that Councillor Cummings did introduce a notice of motion as per the process introduced in the recently updated procedural bylaw. To me, all things are in order. It's relatively straightforward, but we can save introduction and debate for the first meeting in May.
That's correct. So it is in your council package for information only at this time. We do not need a motion, and debate will be on May 12th. All right. I believe that we have now reached the portion of our agenda that requires to move into a closed session. At this time, the live stream of this meeting will now end. For those members of the public who have been watching, the full recording of the open portion of the meeting capturing all decisions made today will be available on the town's website shortly after the meeting has concluded. Please visit www.olds.ca. I would now call for a motion, please, to move into the closed session. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that we go into a closed session at 2:38 p.m. under two items. Item 1, FOIP Section 21, disclosure harmful to intergovernmental relations, to discuss AB Muni's resolutions. And item 2, FOIP Section 24, advice from officials, to discuss their housing situation.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. I will ask for the vote, please. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously, and I thank our gallery member. Thank you for coming. That is carried. The motion is carried, and we will now move into a closed session. Welcome back. Council has reconvened back to regular council now, and we will now do rise and report. And I will now call on Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council to second the City of Red Deer 2025 Alberta Municipalities Resolution, Canada Consumer Carbon Tax Program.
Thank you. I will now ask council, call for the vote. Those in favor? That is unanimous and carried. And I would call on Councillor Ryan for our second motion.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that that council accepts the housing strategy for information.
Very good, Councillor Ryan. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our council meeting, and thank you all for your attendance. I will adjourn the meeting at 3:33.